Et puis il y avait quelque chose qui était justement très beau, c'était que l'époque, il fallait pas la mettre à cet endroit, parce qu'il fallait quand même plutôt inventer, elle a dit un truc que après on reprenait souvent, qui était il faut plutôt qu'on invente notre 2018e siècle. Et donc il y avait une envie d'une image plutôt, au bout du compte, contemporaine, en tout cas l'époque vue d'aujourd'hui.
This is Claire Mathon, the cinematographer of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, an 18th century period piece about many things. The patriarchy that influenced a woman's independence, the prevalence of women artists during that time, and of course, its central plotline of two women falling in love. It's a focus of the past that usually hasn't been conveyed in media and history in general. That guided Claire Mathon and director Celine Sciamma's approach to this period piece. Sciamma states, "These stories hadn't been told, so they belong to today, and a period piece always comes with such conventions. I am obsessed with the contemporary. That was my compass, to make the most contemporary film I could." That's why Portrait of a Lady on Fire plays it loose with the definition of a period piece. The definition, or the general definition, is a work that is set in and strongly reminiscent of an earlier historical period. What's strongly reminiscent if not for the visual reminder that we're in the past? That's where Portrait of a Lady on Fire tears apart these two mutually inclusive elements of setting and visual presentation in order to make a world that's before our time and in conversation with our time. A clash of the 18th and 21st century, or as Claire Mathon says, the 2018th century. It's a result of a contemporary or modern look, but it's not about changing the way the period looks in terms of costumes and buildings, for they're thoroughly researched and portrayed by Celine's team. Instead, the movie captures a feeling that screams modern through its cinematography, which is partly due to the use of digital cameras. Understanding why digital was used requires some knowledge of why film stock like 16mm and 35mm is used to make period films. Claire Mathon herself states that 35mm film stock lends itself to the idea of recollection or a remembrance of a past event. That's one of the primary reasons cinematographers shoot on film for period films. The very aesthetic of film stock evokes an association with the past. This is something that the cinematographer of Vice, Greg Fraser, speaks to. He says, "Vice would be better in film. It felt like something you were watching from the period it was being shot in. Nostalgia is not the right word, it's more indicative of a memory, of imagining how images from those periods might have looked. What we remember of the past is what has been documented, which would be the pictures and movies from that time period. Those old faded pictures and movies shot on film stock encompasses the grainy texture, the softness, and the muted colors, or lack thereof, that guides our mind to what we remember of the past visually. These cinematographers shooting on film often do so because they capture these aesthetics of the previously documented. Or to be blunt, they shoot on film because movies in the past were shot on film stock as well. There is a modernity to the shots in Celine Sciamma's film that is exposed entirely once compared to other period pieces, and their use of celluloid or film cameras. Using digital cameras is not a mere statement from Sciamma that Portrait is not your typical period piece. Instead, it's a meaningful choice that's in service of the film's visual creation of the 2018th century. So, instead of film grain, digital cameras capture a polished, grainless image. Instead of a softer look to the frame, digital cameras capture a sharp and precise image. Ultimately, instead of invoking a memory or a feeling of the past, digital cameras invoke the feeling of the present. The cinematography provides the illusion of a contemporary past, and the cameras used are one aspect of that. The other is color grading. In keeping with the idea of the previously documented, pictures and movies shot in the past more often than not have a muted color palette, if they're not shot in black and white entirely. Portrait does not follow the muted colors to replicate this era. Portrait of a Lady on Fire's color palette is constructed mainly with an enhanced cyan and saturated reds and greens. It's not muted, instead it's vibrant. No picture or film of this period up to the 1950s, let alone the 1800s, has looked this vibrant, other than paintings though, which is the primary reason Portrait of a Lady on Fire is colorized this way, according to the cinematographer Claire Mathon. But don't let that make you forget that the goal was to make the 2018th century an island where women are the main inhabitants and they wear heavy fabric dresses with corsets capturing that antiquated look, but have modern accessories like scarves. A past where abortion and women artists are shown, but patriarchy defines the law of the land. But instead of a dull look that holds this world in the past, it wears a contemporary skin that's full of vibrance. It's in service of the creation of the 2018th century, and that's how Portrait of a Lady on Fire made it visually.